Okay, let's get into some bash here. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here to get started. Kind of exciting to do bash. There's so many things you can do with bash. I think that's what's so cool about bash is it's just really a useful thing to know how to do. And I'm going to go ahead and go to this repo, nogi bjj bash template, click on code right here. And I'm going to go ahead and say new with options, and then select 16 core, and then go ahead and say create code spaces. Perfect. And then once I go through here and I create this, what will happen next is that it will go ahead and build this dev container environment, which in the future should be a little bit faster because I've gone through and I've set up the code spaces here. You can see it's actually building. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things I've done before. So I've done a little bit of Docker here, made a tiny container. I've also created a phrase file here, which is kind of nice. And the other thing I've done is gone into the bash RC and configured the bash RC a little bit. But what we could do today that I think would be kind of fun is to play a little bit with makefiles, because makefiles are actually super useful and they do run bash right inside of a makefile. A little bit different style, but in general, it is good to know a little bit about makefiles. And so what I can do here is go back into this repo that's set up here, and we can play around with makefiles. So I guess to start off with, what I will do is I will create a directory here called Mictor, and we'll call this, we'll call this makefile, make lesson. How about that? Make lesson. And then inside of the README, I'll put here lesson 5 makefiles. And a lot of people ask about makefiles, like, why would I want to use a makefile? And I'm hopefully going to show that. So I'm going to cd into this directory called make lesson here. So what we can do next is actually cd into there, and then create a makefile like this. So we'll say touch makefile, and the touch command will create this empty makefile, and then really we can do anything we want. I think it's important to have some goal initially when you're building things out. Probably the easiest thing to do would be to use a makefile to potentially do some things to either a container or some other thing. That it really saves you time. That's really the idea. Now, if I look at this other repo, see how it has a Docker file and all this stuff. Let's just copy that. So I'm gonna basically copy the stuff from this other project so that I can use it in this project. So I'm gonna say copy Docker file. And then if I go to this, I'll just throw that in there. And then if I say phrase, but instead of phrase, I want to be original. I want to make some new code. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a Marco Polo command line tool using bash. And so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say touch marco.sh. And so inside of here, we will do this user bin env bash, and then I'll do chmod plus x Marco. And here's where I'm going to try to use Copilot to help me as much as possible. And so I need to give it the correct prompts. So first up, we're going to do this. We're going to say build a Marco Polo function that returns the string polo when called if you pass in Marco. We're going to say polo with an uppercase and Marco. So you really have to be on the ball. You can't just let your hands off the wheel, so to speak, when you're building this. And so you have to give it the right prompts. And we of course have Copilot here. We have it right here, Copilot nightly. And so we're going to say inside of here, um, build a Marco Polo function, and we can say Marco if the word polo appears, then echo polo. And we can even tweak it though, right? Because I mean that's pretty good, but we can make it a little bit better, right? It did okay, but why don't we actually prompt it to say if you pass anything else, it'll say what, right? And so there we go. Looks good, right? If $1, so the first thing is gets passed in, and so now all we have to do is basically invoke it, right? So we just say invoke as a command line tool. And so there we go, Marco. Now let's try it out, right? So we already made it executable, kind of fun. We can just say Marco, and we can say Marco. There we go, kind of cool. And then we say like Bob. What? There we go. So not bad. Nice little Marco Polo tool. And if we go here, we can just say like, you know, to run it, you do the following. Now, it would be kind of cool to see if Copilot will make this smarter. Like, for example, you could say like, you know, add some, you know, like add strict mode low, like, you know, and just see what it does. There we go. Right. So now we can see like a stricter mode to run this thing. And that. And now if we run this, it still runs, right? And if I just Google this, let's just double check that that's actually the right thing. We could say pipe fail if set. Yeah, so it looks like this is just some nice default values here that can go into a script, right? You do all this stuff. So we have some better error handling here. And we can take away those comments here, and we can just put some nice documentation. We can say here, actually, I think I need to put it here. We can just say, usage Marco. Bob. How about that? Looks pretty good. Got this thing working. All right, so now that we got that working, we could in fact tweak out a makefile a little bit. So let's just say let's just create a run. And what's the run going to do? We can say, you know, call Marco Polo, call the .marco sh, and pass in Polo. Marco, sorry. There you go. So I mean, kind of silly, but it did do that. And if I say make run, say call Marco, and it passes it in. So it kind of demonstrates that it's really a makefile is about a shortcut, right? Or we tweak our makefile. We tweak our makefile and tell it to run. So basically, all right. So now that we've got that cooking, what else can we cook inside of here? Well, what we could do is we could also put inside something like a Docker build, right? So I think I have this from the README before, maybe, but maybe not. So let's put in, and now we can put in some steps of like let's use this make file to build Docker, right? So this is where the makefile really comes into play. And so if I look at my old lesson here, which was this, see it did this, it copied. So I'm just going to tweak it a little bit. This Docker file, so it's not going to be phrase, it's going to be Marco right here. So Marco. So now this is where I could do a nice build, right? So I could say build, and we could say like build the Docker container, Docker image, and name it Marco. Okay. So again, this is where Copilot plus a makefile is pretty cool, because you can tell Copilot to essentially develop the boilerplate code for you, right? It's like, just get rid of all the garbage for me here. And so if we say make build like that, check that out, go through and we have a nice containerized system. And again, I don't know yet. I haven't done this, but I think Copilot will be able to actually give us some nice commands to invoke container. And so we can say invoke. There we go. Exactly. Run that's exactly what I wanted to do. Marco. Let's see. Does this work? We can say make invoke. Ooh, unable to start it. Was not found in path, because we need to say app Marco, something like that. Let's try that. Well, what we can do here, this is easy to figure out, is we just say Docker. We can say interactive here, interactive. We just say is exactly what I want. Let's try that. Actually, that's interesting. Let me just run that actually. Let's see. Docker run. -it. Well, so we say Docker image ls. We have Docker run. That's what I want. That's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to do this, right? So again, you have to watch this interactive. Run the Docker in interactive mode like that. So now I just need to do ls and see. And if I do Marco, I say Marco, we know that works. So in theory, right, we should be able to do something kind of similar right here. We should be able to do that interactive. And can't I just do run the Docker image in non-interactive mode and execute and pass in Marco? So Docker run Docker. Let's just see what happens if I just do this. What happens? Docker run latest. But wouldn't it be bin bash? Or no. We're I don't know. Let's try this out. Let's see. Docker run found in path. Let's look at our Docker file again. See what I need to do an entry point. Oh, we need to make it executable, maybe. Not 100% sure, but and then entry point. There you go. So it's pretty awesome. And that's what the issue is add entry point. Yeah, but we want let's try this. I actually don't 100% know here. So if I run it, does that work? But we want to do Docker build, or we want to say make build. Make does that have in the make file? Yeah, make build. Make build. So this should rebuild the image. Let's try that out. And then if we say Docker run Marco, didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do. I need to look into Docker entry point for. Okay, let's look at the entry points here. Docker entry points. Entry points. So if you want to run your command without a shell and give it the full path to the executable, so I guess the question is, if I say make interactive, and I'm in here, unbound variable, make interactive. So I think this is an issue here, which is that, first of all, I think it's already executable, so we don't need that. And I think that should probably work. Let's just test it out one more time. So what I can do is I can say make interactive. Here we go. We run in here and we say pwd. It got into this, and if I say which bash, there's bin bash. So there is bash. I thought that it was the command. Let's double check here. It always trips me up if I say Docker run, and then you say bin bash app. No, and then it would be /Marco.sh Marco, something like that. Does this work? Whoa, there we go. Right. So a little more complex than I wanted it to be, but got it working. There we go. Perfect. So this would show why you care about makefiles, right? Is that the makefile takes things that take you 10 minutes to figure out that are non-intuitive and just makes it trivial. So now I just say make invoke. There you go. Now I test out my Docker tool. So I think you really see the power of a makefile when you start to use it inside of a project that has containers associated with it. So this is, I think, a really good lesson for today. And I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to say get status. Go, and let's change the mean readme, and we can just say basically, TLDR, TLDR, you can use the makefile to build and run. We can even say the command here, which would be that. We can say IE make run or make invoke is that. There you go. So let's say get status, get status, get add, readme, get add, lesson, image this, adding file example with Docker. Oh, and we can push this in. Perfect. So I think this is a good lesson to cover for Bash today, and I'll see people that are interested in Bash in a couple weeks.